Stand Up for Love is an online series highlighting the beautiful stories of coming out, overcoming persecution, accepting love, and openly discussing the issues that are close to the hearts of us in the LGBTQ+ community. I'm your host, Kaimara, Indonesia's very own LGBTQ+ musician and advocate for the human right to love. Today, we start off the series by diving into who I am and what has brought me to this very point. Coming out for me, like for most others, came in stages. I am a firm believer that we in the LGBTQ+ community don't just come out once. It is a consistent journey of coming out every day as we meet new people. Specifically for me, I identify as a woman and also have some traits that are considered more feminine by the general public, such as this ridiculously long hair and the fact that I do occasionally wear tight-fitting clothing and thus qualify as straight passing. So I feel like I have to come out on a daily basis. Pretty much from a young age, I found people of all genders beautiful. And I had this sense of feeling that whoever I loved, I would fall in love with for their eyes, for their hearts, for their laughter, for their soul, and it wouldn't be stipulated on their gender identity. Looking back at that now, in theory, having the viewpoint I did was super healthy and accepting, especially for someone who spent their teenage years in Jakarta, a place where anything but the norm of getting married and then having sex and then having children was considered taboo and abnormal. So I grew up with a pretty healthy acceptance of the LGBTQ+ community. However, in practicality, when it came to me discovering my own sexual orientation and the first time I fell in love with a woman, that's a different story. I will say that it was a very heavy heartbreak and a first love that led me down a journey in which I felt quite hopeless. The first time I fell in love with a woman, let alone anyone, was in high school. I was 17 years old, and I fell in love with my best friend, who was this stunning woman who made life into a comedy and made everyone around her feel comfortable. We had such a strong connection and really spent a lot of our days just uncontrollably laughing and pushing the boundaries of eccentricity and ending up in the most ridiculous situations. I fell in love with her, and it was heavy because I knew she didn't love me back. I didn't want to love her, and at that time I wasn't even ready to admit it to myself. So I kept it locked away to myself, writing songs about the heartache and that pain of having your love be unrequited. And I used music as my outlet that I felt safe to explore my feelings and emotional landscape. So we carried on with our closeness and our friendship. And she began to like one of our classmates, a boy. And I saw them kiss at a party. And she called me later on to tell me about their first time. And I went with her to get the morning after pill. And those layers just piled on top of me in a way that grew heavier and heavier as I was holding in this secret. And that weight piled to the point where the lock broke. She found out about my sexual orientation before I was even ready to admit it to myself, let alone to feel empowered to say it to someone else, especially the person who I loved. And in that moment, I felt so small and hopeless. So I began looking for resources in my school and in my city, and I found nothing in Jakarta. It was barren, and that made me feel completely isolated and scared, like there was no one who could relate to my experience, even though looking back at it now, so many people can. It was quite an isolating experience to feel like I was reaching out for connection, yet the only thing I heard back was the echo of my own voice. And it took quite some time spent in self-reflection and self-inquiry to really recognize my worth as an individual and also realize that I'm worthy of loving and worthy of being loved. And this happens through communicating with people who are accepting and also talking directly with other folks in the LGBTQ+ community. It also really helped that when I made the initiative to come out to my parents, which was on my own accord, their simple, beautiful message was, as long as you are happy, we're happy. And that is a rarity to hear in this country. So I'm super grateful that I have the most loving family that has accepted me coming out, accepted my partner in my life, and also accepted the weirdness I am on a daily basis. And this acceptance juxtaposed the time in which my best friend found out about my sexual orientation. That was an experience that felt like the closet doors were just ripped out of the closet I was hiding in. And this felt like I was actually making the initiative to come out and be who I am. And that was an exciting feeling, to feel accepted. When I think back to that time of feeling complete isolation and fear about who I was and who I loved, my heart completely aches for that teenager I used to be. This is the experience that has thwarted me to feel a sense of responsibility in Indonesia to be visible representation for the LGBTQ+ community. That is what I needed a few years ago. So now, in the current day, my experiences have led me up a hill in which I am here to utilize the privileged position I have. The culmination of a loving family, a small and mighty loyal audience who actively engages with me on a regular basis, and recognizing the unique position I'm in and the ability I have to be able to reach both Indonesia and a wider audience. These are what keeps me motivated to be representation in a country that has actively tried to stifle the LGBTQ+ community through societal shame and government laws meant to criminalize us and make us feel like we are not worthy of existing. I'll be honest, it's not easy hearing from others that I am diseased or should be ashamed of myself for bringing the poisoned values of the West into our beautiful Indonesian country. It can feel quite disparaging to be continuously told that there's something wrong with me, that I should just stay quiet and keep my head down, and to love in the shadows. That the visibility of my love should be something that is either actively stifled or actively punished. There was a time this year in which I woke up to find a photo of myself had circulated around Facebook with thousands of some pretty horrific messages, borderline inciting violence, saying that they're looking to find out who I am, where I live, and how they can track me down. And I know it would be much easier to just acquiesce, to love in the shadows, and to keep my beautiful partner and I safe behind closed doors. However, I also know it feels so much more fulfilling and meaningful to try to be that person I so desperately needed when I was a young, broken teenager, coming to terms with my sexual orientation and really struggling to figure out how I could ever feel like I was worthy of being loved. I am here hoping to be a reminder that we are worthy, we are beautiful, and we are also a part of Indonesia that deserves a right and a voice to speak up about who we are and who we love without fear of shame or criminalization. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, please be sure to just hit the like button down below, as well as subscribe if you want to see more content. It really helps this channel out and makes sure that YouTube values the work we are doing. If you are wanting to stay up to date with our projects and what we are involved in, follow at Pelangi Nusantara on Instagram, as well as me personally at Kaimara Music on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. As always, you are loved.